we had a family come by, and the son was practically dragging his dad over to the booth. And we did not understand why. And it turned out not only was he deaf, but his father was too. So we realized that the fact that you can play the game with one hand means that they can do sign language between each other.
Ooh, yeah.
So they could talk while they were playing, and also because we tend to play with others if there's not enough people, they could strategize against us. So for the first time, they could communicate and beat us at a game because they were like, "Okay, go over here." You just gotta.
I don't know who you are. I just dropped by here yesterday, and you talked about the game you're making, and you describing why you make this game wanted me to get to know you a bit better. Because why do you make this game?
Oh, that's a complicated question. So the main thing I think is I started video game development very, very, very early. Like I think maybe like when I was somewhere in the ballpark of 12 to 14 years old, and I've been wanting to make video games my entire life. Like that has never changed. Like there was an early part where I was thinking, should I go into comics? Should I do animation? Should I do music? All these other things. And then I realized at some point that video games can do all of that. So I just decided this is where I want to be. And all of the goals that I had in mind for getting to that point should be going towards that one goal. And I think what's really interesting to me about Vikings specifically is that it started exactly the same time as I did, because this game was made by the co-founder of D-Pad Studio, Juremi Madsen. So he started making games when he was 14 as well. And this was one of his projects. So that started, I think, let's just say 20 years, because I'm running out of, I can't calculate that far back. And his whole thing was he wanted to make Age of Empires, couldn't figure that out. And then he was going to make the troops walk around. And when he couldn't figure out how to just make a troop walk from one point to the other, he just put trampolines everywhere. So he showed that to me like 10 years later after we'd met and we started D-Pad Studio and we started working on Owlboy, our big like magnum opus project. And he was like, look at my strategy game. And I said, this is not a strategy game, this is a party game. So we started working on that sort of as a versus brawler. We initially tried to keep some of his ideas of like sieging castles and everything, because it was supposed to have Romans and Egyptians and all the other factions. And we started with the Vikings, and then we just said, how about we stick to the Vikings? So part of what makes me so excited about Vikings and Trampolines, because we finished Owlboy. We worked on that for 9 years straight. So that was a very big project. First commercial project. We did a few projects in between, but we were very tired. So right in the middle of that, I think it was like at the 5-year mark, somewhere around there, we took a 1-week break, made a new prototype for Vikings and Trampolines, and then we brought that to Sweden, Malmö, for a Nordic Game Conference, and we won Game of the Year. So that was 2010. And now that Owlboy is out, and you know, we were starting to think about what do we want to do next? Where is our path going? We made a bunch of projects. So we have a ton of projects in-house, but it's always, people keep coming back to Vikings just every single time we show something. And we've realized that Vikings is the opposite of our other projects. Owlboy was big, ambitious, big exploration. It had a lot of written dialogue. It was also very hard to learn and very complex. Vikings is just hit each other in the face, lots of squash and stretch, the easiest controls humanly possible. And all this preamble that I'm just throwing out there is there to get to the point where we've realized that the fact that you can control this entire game with just your one hand, just the one control stick, means that we've more or less removed the barrier for entry. So if you have parents who struggle to play together because the skill levels are different or their interests are different, suddenly they can play together. If they have kids they want to play with, like Uremi has children that are very, very young, and they're able to play with them. And we've also realized that because you only need the dexterity of your one thumb, it's also very accessible for people with disabilities.
Yeah.
And that makes me so excited, because it means that this long dream that we've had this entire time is sort of the merger of all the ideas that we've had as a company for this long. And it turns out that it opens the door to a lot more people than we initially thought.
Speaking about accessibility, a couple of episodes ago, I had Arevia on this podcast, and she is an accessibility advocate. And I saw she posted a story yesterday about this game.
Yeah.
And it's playable with one hand. This is the accessibility dream.
Yeah.
And I'm imagining, like, you have these controllers right here, which means you need to grip it. But I'm assuming you can use another controller, a stick or something like that, just to keep it as accessible as possible.
Yeah, the great thing, because it technically, it doesn't even use analog input, it uses directional. So it's 3-directional input, so you can use a keyboard, you can use an analog stick, you can even, in theory, because yes, you can do all these extra movements with up and down to get yourself higher and all these extra things, but technically, you can play the game with just the 2 directions.
Yeah.
Meaning you could, I think, use a steering wheel. I think that's possible.
Yeah.
At the very least, you can use foot pads. I know you can.
Yeah.
You can use, I'm pretty sure this will be compatible with a mouse controller.
Yeah, the pipe, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, because then you have in and out, yeah.
Of course, all of this is theoretical for now. We're currently testing everything that we can, but I think the one thing that I've been clued in on recently is that on one hand, a lot of people that struggle with limited movement often create a barrier where they don't feel like they can interact with others. Like there's a bit of a nervousness to sit in the same room and play together. So the fact that there's so little setup might mean that we can bring that barrier down, which would be good. And the other, which I am shocked by, we had a moment at Tokyo Game Show. And of course, we're not native Japanese speakers. And at that particular one, we did not have interpreters. So of course, this is a really easy game to show off. So you could just have people come in and we just point at the stick and then people got the idea. But we had a family come by and the son was practically dragging his dad over to the booth. And we did not understand why. And it turned out not only was he deaf, but his father was too. So we realized that the fact that you can play the game with one hand means that they could do sign language between each other.
Ooh, yeah.
So they could talk while they were playing, and also because we tend to play with others if there's not enough people, they could strategize against us. So for the first time, they could communicate and beat us at our game because they were like, okay, go over here, because you just gotta.
Oh, that's awesome. That's one of the situations you find yourself in and thinking, well, this is new.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that because we go out and we share it with people in person, that's the kind of thing that we discover. Vikings is very difficult to showcase in an online setting because if you're watching this on, I don't know, a live stream or a video or whatever else, you just see some characters bouncing, you go, okay, I don't get it. It's what is it, like a Mario thing and you have some bosses or something, but it's that environment of sitting with others and then realizing that, wait, I can play this with literally anyone. I can hand this to my sister and she won't get mad.
Yeah.
Like my husband will want to play this with me. Like there's all these things that this opens up for once we get to show it in public. That's why I love doing things like this. Like I take every opportunity that I can to come out and just see people play it.
Let's go a little bit back in history. You mentioned you've been developing games since you were 12, 14. As a culmination of everything you wanted to do. Do you have any people who inspire you, game designers, game developers, who are big inspirations to you?
I have so many that it's difficult to point out anything in particular because I feel like kind of what happens with a lot of, like, every once in a while you get this sort of question where it's like, what's the best game you've ever played? Or what's your favorite album? And you sort of internalize this sort of like media answer where it's like, well, this is sort of like the closest approximation of a magnum opus that I can give. So often, like when someone says, what's your favorite game? I'll be like, Chrono Trigger, Majora's Mask, that kind of thing. But if we're getting into the details of it, of course, Nintendo games have been my whole life for a very long time. Like I am richly enamored with The Legend of Zelda because it opened my eyes to a lot of ways that you can do narrative storytelling and marry that to a lot of interactions. So that's very important to me. So Shigeru Miyamoto, Eiji Inuuma, all of those are very important to me. I am completely and 100% behind everything that's Mega Man. But it sounds like it's just like, yes, it's because it's the cool shooty robot and you jump and shoot and that's the game kind of a thing. But first off, it's the thing that made me draw in the first place. Like I would not have been making art had it not been for me making like fake armors for Mega Man X and all of that. But I think more so than anything, like Mega Man X, the first one, was a really, like, when you're very, very little, we're talking like 6 years old, and you're seeing this game for the first time, and you have a moment like the main character X meeting the character Zero, and him telling him, you can get so much stronger. And then as you play through the game, you have the option to unlock an armor that does actually make you as strong as that character. Suddenly, you start understanding what it's all these elements of psychological storytelling, where it's, someone hinting towards a type of feeling, and then you can chase that feeling and you get rewarded for that. That eye-opener started to make me think about how to do game design in the first place. So all of that is extremely important to me as a game designer, as an artist as well. But if we're stepping one step further, like all the old artists at Capcom, of course, fantastic people. Tetsuya Yoshikawa, among others. He was the character artist for Breath of Fire. I think that's his most famous one. Was one of the ones that helped me really think about how to paint and create those things. Now, you would think that I would point to a lot of pixel artists because that is my bread and butter, but ironically, I don't have a specific person to pinpoint because all my pixel art is sort of an accumulation of all the things I wanted to do with my art. So it was never that I wanted to emulate anything in particular. So I always feel bad that I don't have like, that's the pixel artist you should look at. But
I feel the same way because I watch a lot of makers and stuff on YouTube, and a lot of them, they present a whole slew of interesting ideas. And what you get out of it is the amalgamation of those ideas, right? So you can't really pinpoint one of them. It's like everything together.
Yeah, and I feel like A lot of people that work in video games, often at the very least on the indie level, will have one game that they're like completely all about. And then they'll say, I want to make the best version of that one game. But I always feel like it's a skill to pour from multiple sources and find a way to express something that is wholly yourself rather than you trying to live up to the potential of someone else's dream. Because that is part of what the artistic expression is about. It's expressing you and it's showing your journey. And if you can get other people interested in that, I feel like that's sort of the ultimate goal of the whole thing.
Yeah. You're an indie studio.
Yes.
Meaning you don't really have internal deadlines?
Yeah, I would say so.
Do you have external deadlines or anything other than you telling people what you're gonna do?
So Deepa Studio is a little unusual in the fact that we're kind of loosey-goosey about it because that was the intent of the structure of the company. I used to work in advertising, and it would be show up at 9, and then you sit there until you're done with the day for however long it is. Everything was paperwork and deadlines and meeting with clients and all of that. And over time, I realized how much time was being wasted. Because there's something about, if you could just say, stop, I'm going to fix this thing now, or else I'm going to lose momentum, and then we're not going to reach the deadline that we want to have. If I could just do that, that would save us so much time. And that's kind of how we've kept our the way that we work. That said, that's not always how it works. Like for conventions, for example, we have to plan way ahead of time in order to reach deadlines for either our external funding partners or people that help us with distribution or funding deals or all of that. That has to be like massively planned ahead. Our social media presence is very important. So I feel like trying to be as flexible as we can with the things that we can is sort of the mantra. And then everything else we're kind of hard ass on.
Yeah. I want to end this interview with asking you about your moonshot. What is your big goal? What is your dream? What do you want to achieve? What do you see at the end of this road?
So I feel like there's 2 steps to it. I think my starting goal right now has always been to elevate pixel art as an art form and as an art medium beyond sort of just like this idea of a retro thing that's only there in the vernacular until the money runs out. I have been promoting this from pretty much since I started making pixel art. And I feel like a lot of damage was being done in the 90s moving over to the 2000s when 3D consoles and everything came out, and everyone started just referring to this as retro or old school or outdated or something like that. Like, I've been saying this line for so long, but people didn't stop painting because the camera was invented. These are actual art forms, but I think because they're on a digital space, people forget how long the history is. Like,
you only think always expanding, upgrading, getting better, but keep the old stuff there as well.
Yeah, but if you think about it, pixel art is the latest iteration of cross-stitching, mosaics, tile work. All of these other things have existed for ages and ages and ages. And this is something that I feel is very important to maintain. And I think it is an absolute shame that not only is it not being displayed or categorized or kept in any sort of way, and I realize that it's difficult, but someone has to figure it out, but it's also not taught in schools. This is one of the most prominent art forms that exists at the moment. Everyone recognizes it. It's on virtually everything we look at. and nobody bothers to care for it. So
Yeah.
being able to promote that and elevating that to the point where it's kept, I think is important.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about like what I would just want for my own frivolous nature, I still am dreaming of my last mega project. Like the one thing that I feel like will cement all these ideas that I've had in my mind. And it doesn't have to be, me sitting in a cave for ages and doing it. I could collaborate, I could work with an external company, it could be all sorts of things. But I feel I have always had this underlying thought that I want something to be remembered for. And I also think it's a shame that so few things are made in Norway where it feels like it has a lasting legacy. So that's one of those things that I really wish I can achieve.
That's a really good answer. Thank you for your time. I think people are coming in now, so I'll let you get to it and show your game to a lot of young kids and, grown-up kids as well.
All right. Well, I appreciate having me on.
Best of luck.
Thank you.